Alexa, what day is it?
It's Friday, March 2nd.
Alexa, what time is it?
The time is 10:15 a.m.
Alexa, turn on lamp 1.
Okay.
Right, I'm Linton, and we are, here it is the 2nd of February, Groundhog's Day. No, because it's the 2nd, March, 2nd of March. Um, don't worry about the date, the thing we're chasing, our quarry as it were. An ancient enemy has been doing this dirt for longer than we've been human. May take a few generations, but it appears at this point that it can drive the birth rate right down to zero and hold it there. An immediate challenge is whether this can be proven experimentally. The paper by Sibley I mentioned earlier showed that the mechanism, and he explicitly showed that the mechanism, and he explicitly stated that there had to be a mechanism, is seen in mammals, birds, fish, and insects. Of these, insects are so far down the food chain, so to speak, that just about nobody cares much about how badly you abuse them. I heard it tell you that I have never planned to, never did deliberately abuse my insects. How they felt about it, they never said. The most popular insect for the laboratory studies, of course, the fruit fly, Drosophila melanogaster. Drosophila means loves garbage. Melanogaster means its abdomen is black. You can purchase them. I get mine from Carolina Biological Supply in North Carolina. My initial plan was to cross together flies that had been unrelated for a long time. The pleasant technologist I spoke with said all the flies they had been there longer than she had, and she'd been there 3 years. So I figured, okay, these are unrelated flies because there's each line has a mutation that's of interest, easily seen, and so you can buy two flies of different lines and see how their genetics works out. So I bought 16 different lines, each with its own genetic marker, and some special mutations. So the lines were unrelated for many generations. Standard of fruit fly husbandry says that you start a line taking 4 males and 4 females. Actually, you can just take 20 at random, they say. And you start the line. So each time I crossed them, I would take 4 males from one line and 4 from another and cross them. And the pattern was, if you name them A through P for 16 lines, I crossed A with B and then B with C and so forth all around to P with A. And then I had 16 lines, and so I could cross AB with BC and so forth. So by the end, I still had 16 lines, and they all were descended from all of the original lines, and they had survived. The fertility seemed to be going down a little bit. Hard to document that. It wasn't completely straightforward because when you lost the line, you'd have to back up over a couple of generations, and the degree to which the flies overlapped was not great, and there was generations overlapped. And then sometimes you just make a mistake and stick a fly where it didn't belong. For instance, you're saving some virgin females, so you can make a cross later, and then you look in there, and one of them's a male. So anyway, after 4 crosses, It sounds like the phone's ringing. I'm going to stop this and see what it is. All right, crisis was ducked. Get back to it later. Yes, so I went 4 generations. The flies were still alive. What would have happened at 5 or 6, I don't know, but I kind of doubt that we'd have lost them all. Fruit fly fertility is pretty robust. Anyway, I released the flies slowly into a cage, um, so that they could um, go ahead and do what they needed to do. This was my cage. Um, the cage is very blue. You can see my iconic raven in the corner. We'll see him again soon. The Some old clothes over here. If you ever feel like complaining about lab space, um, uh, don't do that until you've tried putting your equipment into a closet with your mother's old clothing. All right, there we go. This is an inside shot of the cage. You see these bottles. We move every day. Take a line of 4 bottles out, put a line of 4 fresh bottles in, and move them around, hoping to keep the fruit flies confused as to place. As it turns out, apparently the fruit flies uh, don't care about place. They recognize each other as individuals and probably learn it as maggots. That's only a suspicion. Can't prove it. Can't prove it. You can see flies here in the flash from the camera. And so we counted the bottles, counted the flies every day, every 2 weeks. Yeah, we'd summate them, and then come back and do a do you know, we counted 2 windows. Add the 2 windows every day after 2 weeks. Add up all the counts, and that would be a point. And so here's the fruit fly population. This is where we release them. You got very rapid growth, fall, growth, fall, growth, fall. This is what you could call damped oscillation. Sure, it's noisy. The peaks go down, the troughs go down. This is a characteristic line. Now then, a pattern. If you remember Sibley, do you remember that curve? I hope so. The curve indicated different axes. This is just, pooled counts and time. On the Sibley curve, where it was uh, the vertical axis was fertility, the horizontal axis was population size. At low populations, fertility increased rapidly. At higher populations, fertility decreased slowly. So rapid rise, slow fall, rapid rise, slow fall. I could wish I could have said, oh yeah, we predicted that. I didn't. I was totally blindsided by it. Didn't know what I was getting into, didn't know what to expect. But there it is, exactly what the Sibley curve prepared us for. Um, so, um, let's see. Now you can see the damped oscillation. You may also notice rapid rises, slow fall. Um, the fertility changes so fast and changes direction so fast that it cannot be just DNA genes being selected for, which is all we're really prepared for by current thinking. Can't do it. It cycles. Does the same thing again and again. Wrap it up, slow down. Don't know what happened to the uh, image there. Okay, rapid rise, slow fall. Cycle, cycle, cycle. No, we're not selecting for genes. Happening too fast. All this is only a couple of years. Oh, that's not enough time to accumulate DNA mutations in a specific area. That isn't it. It has to be something. It has to be epigenetic, having to do with the control of genes, not just genes themselves. Um, so we know that kinship governs fertility in fruit flies because we just tried it and saw it happen. We know that the result is the same as the Sibley curve, which we have no reason to question. It's just uh, we now have a lab model, but the flies do what the Sibley curve um, forced them to do. And despite my dastardly activities, the flies never died out. Um, Evidently, their fertility is very robust, and as I suggested, they may not be mixing at random in that cage. They may recognize each other, and they may recognize each other from when they're maggots. Yes, no, I have no evidence for that except how robustly they resist the pressure of increasing population size. That's not much evidence. I think it might be a good fun for somebody someday to go in and play with fruit flies and see if maggots fall in love and later recognize each other. I think that should be possible. So we have an experimental model. We can use this to pursue the mechanism for that links kinship with fertility. We got something. It's not difficult, not expensive, takes a little space, takes a lot of time, but you can make it work. Um, so if you want to cut to the chase, come to nobabies.net. Start reading the summaries. Basically, what we're doing now is producing a nice, great, big, long summary in which we discuss the various pieces of information that are in the other summaries. But if you read one of the summaries, you're likely to say, oh, 8 or 10 pages, we'll knock that out in half an hour. No, this is going to be probably 30 videos at a quarter of an hour each. You're talking 7 hours uh, being held by the hand to get through this. I don't think you're going to expect to put 7 hours into reading one of the summaries, but it would be well worth it because this is the most important thing you'll ever learn. Just as simple as that. Okay, there are certain social and biological functions you need to, but if you're able to understand me at all, if you're 10 years old or more, uh, you have nothing left to learn anything like as important as I'm giving it out. So that ends it, and we'll be back with more evidence soon.